Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here this morning and introduce you to HAPPE Spine. As mentioned, my name is Ryan Roeder. I'm the CTO and a founder of the company. At HAPPE Spine, we are commercializing an enabling new biomaterials technology platform with applications across orthopedics. In fact, our technology is in our name. I'm sorry, the clicker is not working. There we go. Hydroxyapatite. Can I get a different clicker? I keep pushing the button and nothing's happening. This one works. Hydroxyapatite, porous, PEEK. I can summarize our value proposition in this slide. We offer a material technology platform that will improve clinical outcomes in osteointegration. This platform has diverse applications, as I said, across orthopedics, but we are focused to start on an enabling opportunity and innovative approach to deal with spinal fusion. I'm going to explain that in more detail. This opportunity has fast growth potential to differentiate and create a lot of value early in our company's history. We have an experienced team, more than just me, obviously, with decades of experience in the technology and the commercial space behind what we're doing. So let me start with the problem that we address. In orthopedics, how do you get an implant to integrate with bone? Now, we have a lot of things on the market that work, all right? We have metals and plastics that are used for decades now. They're cost-effective, low risk, but biologically, they do not perform well. On the other hand, we've got biologics that have become more prominent, more costly, more risk associated with them, but they perform very well biologically. So other than bone, there's still a gap for something that can meet all the requirements for osteointegration. And we believe that our technology, by bridging the gap between metal and plastic and biologics, can do that. So our solution, again, with hydroxyapatite, porosity, and PEEK. So hydroxyapatite is the mineral that's in your bones, right? It's bioactive. PEEK is a high-performance thermoplastic that has at least 2 decades of successful use in orthopedics. So I show on the top there a cervical interbody spinal fusion cage to demonstrate the HAPPE solution. With this material platform, we are able to engineer implants like the one shown to have biomechanical properties that mimic those of the native bone tissue. We're able to engineer a fully interconnected porous structure that allows bone ingrowth throughout the entire implant. And we're able to provide bioactivity through hydroxyapatite crystals, microscopic hydroxyapatite crystals that are embedded in the material, as you can see in the right image there. We foresee a $5 billion market opportunity across a range of applications in orthopedics, spanning suture anchors to osteotomy wedges. But again, our initial target is spinal fusion because it's a very large market, and there's a lot of opportunity for product differentiation and improving clinical outcomes. In spinal fusion, 90% of the market right now is dominated between PEEK and titanium implants. In case you're not familiar with spinal fusion is used to relieve pain and correct spinal deformities caused by disease and injury. An implant called a cage, as you can see in the image, is stuck between 2 vertebrae in the disc space, and it functions to restore vertebral height, which alleviates pain through alleviating nerve impingement, and it fuses the 2 vertebrae together to restabilize the spine. Again, this is a $2.5 billion market with a lot of opportunity for differentiation and creating value. I can tell you from conversations that our team has had with upwards of 100 surgeons that there is a need and a perceived interest in what we're bringing to the market. And I can explain why here with a brief history. So up until about 10 years ago, there were 3 options in interbody spinal fusion. There was allograft, which is kind of the long-standing, right? It's bone. It performs very well biologically. It still is the gold standard today in many ways in terms of the biologic performance. But then titanium came over, borrowed from orthopedics. And then titanium became quickly displaced by PEEK, and the reason was because titanium inhibits post-op radiographic imaging, and it suffers from subsidence due to its rigidity. And so PEEK solved these issues, at least at that time, and became the market leader up until a time of about a decade ago. Now fast forward to the present. Over the last several years, there's been a number of new market entries still looking for the answer here. And what's interesting is that none of these market entries have still found the answer, but they have shown the way to what we envisioned 15 years earlier. And I'll explain that with each one. Porous or 3D printed titanium came onto the market and showed the market for the first time the benefits of having design porosity in the disc space and for the ingrowth that can happen with that. And so this has been successful in that regard, but titanium still suffers from the same old problems that I described earlier, inhibiting postoperative imaging and subsidence. HA Enhanced PEEK was then introduced by really a global PEEK supplier named Envibio. And the idea of HA Enhanced PEEK now is that you can take care of the limitation of PEEK in terms of its osseointegration. And as you see in the image on the right, you can get a direct apposition of the purple stained bone against the PEEK as opposed to having a fibrous tissue encapsulation. But the problem with this approach is it's still limited by the fact there's no opportunity for ingrowth with this material. Just 3 years ago, Vertera was acquired by NuVasive after launching and introducing to the market a surface porous PEEK. And so, again, one of the two things are covered here. The surface layer of porosity allows for limited bone ingrowth, as shown on the image in the far right. You can see the purple stained bone again, but it's still encapsulated by fibrous tissue because there's no bioactivity. So because of this movement in the market, if you will, over the last few years, the market is now ready for what, again, we envisioned 15 years earlier, which is porous and bioactive PEEK, the HAPPE material. And if you'll forgive my analogy, you could say that if HA Enhanced PEEK were like peanut butter and surface porous PEEK were like chocolate, then clearly you can see where this is going. We offer the peanut butter cup that the market can now appreciate is superior to either alone and will hopefully crave. In the spinal fusion space, it would be widely recognized by our clinical partners that what you're really after are four things: design porosity for ingrowth, bioactivity for bone on growth, the appropriate mechanical properties, both strong enough and transferring load to the graft space, and radiolucency for post-op imaging. The HAPPE material is the only material that can provide all of these. We do this through a patented dual density design where we've got a dense HA PEEK for load bearing, and we've got the porous HA PEEK for osteointegration. And we're able to place the material where we want it through our proprietary manufacturing processes and have seamless integration between these two so there are no joints or bonds for failure. Our mechanical properties are able to mimic those of bone, shown in the slide here, both cortical and cancellous, which neither titanium nor PEEK can do alone. And then our porous material, as you can see in this image, has a cancellous-like structure. It looks like bone, it feels like bone. I love to put our implant in the hands of surgeons and hear their reaction. They actually ask me if it is bone, okay? And so you can see the pore interconnections there. We've designed it for bone integration. And we show that in our preclinical data here, where you can see highlighted in blue, bone grew into our porous material in an established ovine cortical bone defect model that's used to evaluate biomaterials preclinically. And it grew into a depth of 1 to 2 millimeters into 10 to 12 week time period. Importantly, when you look closely, you can see that the bone in the scaffold is HAPPE. It is vascularized, remodeling, and in direct contact with the material. Again, the material is hydrophilic, so because of this hydroxyapatite, and it's able to absorb blood and plasma and as it would when it's implanted. And this is, again, because of the bioactive HA whiskers that we've put into the material. They're embedded in the PEEK for reinforcement, and they're exposed on the surfaces to provide that bioactivity. If you'll be patient with me for one more minute since the snafu with the clicker. So why HAPPE Spine? Why is HAPPE Spine an exciting company to watch? Behind this material platform, we've got a robust and growing IP portfolio spanning the material compositions, processes, implant designs. We've developed cost-effective and scalable manufacturing compared to what's already out there with other implant technologies, and it's adaptable for a variety of implant designs. We're on a 510K regulatory path. We've already completed some testing, and we're in the process of doing our longer-term biocompatibility tests for a Q4 submission later this year. We've got a clinical team behind us. We've already established an ACDF team of 8 KOLs in that space. And we've thus far been very frugal, carefully managing capital, $2.2 million used to date to get us to this point. And in just a month, we've actually already oversubscribed in a $3 million Series A. So let me just close by thanking other team members that are not up here with me, including others that are out here, Genesis Innovation Group, that are backing us. And I look forward to any conversations in the breakout room. Thank you.